All right, welcome everybody. We are so excited to have such a distinguished panel here. Our Jeff Ferris Leadership Board has been working very hard to put together some professional development opportunities for the membership of District 6170 of Rotary International. And I'm excited to have all of you here for the lunch hour to sort of talk about a very relevant topic that a lot of us didn't think we would still be talking about here in October of 2020, but it looks like it will be here for quite a good while. So I will turn it over to our Jeff Ferris Leadership Chair from the Rotary Club of Conway, Katya Pitchford. And just thank you so much, Katya, for all of your work in putting this together. I think it will be a wonderful benefit for our membership, and I look so much forward to seeing what the panelists have to say today.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. We are excited to start our panel, but before we'll do that, our Jeff Ferris Leadership Committee have been working for the last 3 months on creating a promotional video for our Leadership Academy in partnership with Dave Creek Media. And I got the final video today. And I just would like to share it with you first, that you'll know a little more about what Rotary and our District 6170 offers its members through Jeff Ferris Leadership Academy. Jeff Ferris Leadership Academy was founded in 2004 by Rotary District 6170. The Academy's mission is to assist local clubs in preparing Rotarians for the leadership roles within Rotary, community, and their workplace. The Academy will help your club to fuel leadership reigns for years to come and will positively impact our communities.
Hello, friends. I'm J.D. Gingrich, current Dean of the Jeff Ferris Leadership Academy. It is an honor and a thrill for me to have the opportunity to serve in this capacity. Jeff Ferris was my first boss 40 years ago when he was serving as president of the University of Central Arkansas. I personally benefited from the example of his own leadership then, and we continue to benefit from this legacy that he left for District 6170 after his service as district governor. When you engage in the Academy, you'll enjoy 4 action-packed weekends where you'll hear from some of our state's finest leaders, like the Speaker of the Arkansas House of Representatives, Supreme Court justices, university presidents, and business executives, academic leaders who conducted research and taught on all aspects of leadership, and award-winning speakers who will inspire you to lead. We'll look at the essential components of leadership, delve into the issues of communication, integrity, and ethics, dealing with change, creating a vision, dealing with failure, and measuring success. And you'll be asked to engage in your own leadership challenge exercise, where, with help from your classmates, you'll demonstrate your leadership skills using the information that you have acquired along the way.
This is what our alumni has to say about their experience at Jeff Ferris Leadership Academy.
I believe that the essence of leadership is leading by example, and JFLA empowers us through that foundational approach and takes all the classroom experience that we have through this program and translates that into real world thinking. And through this process, I believe that we grow personally stronger and not only for our organization, but that also impacts the Rotary at the local, district, and global levels.
I was in a position of great change in exercising leadership for myself, and it was a moment for the club, because in 2017, my friend Jim Capps, who actually brought me into Rotary, he was positioned to serve as club president, but because of health reasons, he was unable to serve, and I was called upon to step into that role and serve as the club president, which was entirely unexpected for me, and that was a great example of leadership in a moment of change.
Leadership communication means not thinking you have all the right answers. Being a leader means asking questions, listening to people, and creating solutions. That means that you have to make phone calls, send emails, keep your ears open and your mind open for those who have ideas that can help.
Principle of leadership and the ethics in leadership are pretty similar to me. Being respectful, fair, transparent, and having open communication. Also, to have ability to notice other people's strengths and then maybe support them and help them to maximize those.
The Jeff Ferris Leadership Academy helped me lead the district by giving me a greater appreciation for the diversity of opinion that lies within our district. In addition, it helped teach me to learn how to use that leadership potential that lies within us all for the greater good. The Academy has also created opportunities for my classmates and I to serve together at district Rotary leadership roles, making our communities, Rotary, and world a better place.
If you have Rotarians who exhibit strong leadership potential, consider nominating them for Jeff Ferris Leadership Academy. For more information, please reach out to the president of your club and visit us on District 6170 website.
Hey, Pumpkin.
That's a good ending to the video. So thank you, everybody. So we're really proud of our video. We hope to tell our story.
I gotta go. I've got a Zoom meeting. Adios.
Good participants. So we have some Spanish-speaking audience here too. That's great. Courtney, you need to mute yourself. Or I'll mute. Yeah, okay. Thank you. All right. So it's time to go ahead and introduce our panel. So, and just to remind you, so I'm from Ukraine, so Dnipropetrovsk, Ukraine. So I hope you'll have a good time listening to this biographies that I'm gonna try to go over with professionalism. So Matt, I'm sorry, I had to drop that you were born in Texas because my husband said that the way I was saying Texas yesterday was a little funny. So I decided just to skip that part. So, but we're gonna go ahead and start with Secretary Elizabeth Thomas Smith. She is a cabinet secretary with the Department of Inspector General. She was recently named secretary of the Department of Inspector General, which newly created by Governor Hutchinson transformation. Secretary Smith continues her medical inspector general role, and in addition to oversight for internal audit and fair housing. Smith previously served Governor Hutchinson as a chief counsel. Her career began as a deputy prosecutor, then entered private practice specializing in healthcare. Secretary returned to state service as an assistant attorney general and then joined the University of Arkansas General Counsel, where she was able to combine her interest and expertise in healthcare and government services, handling employment litigations, healthcare compliance, and utility regulation. So our healthcare industry is presented by Matt Troop, and Troop became the president and a CEO of the Conway Regional Healthcare Systems 4 years ago. He has approximately 24 years of experience in hospital administration, having worked in Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, and Arkansas. He describes himself as a servant leader, which is very fitting to lead Conway Regional with its 82-year history of serving Conway in partnership with staff, physicians, and community. Under Troop's leadership, Conway Regional proud to have physician engagement at top 5% in the nation. Also under his leadership, Conway Regional expanded several key services such as neurospine surgery, sleep medicine, and plastic surgery. In September of this year, Conway Regional Medical Center joined an esteemed group of hospitals across the nation by achieving Magnet designation, a reflection of nursing professionalism, teamwork, and superiority in patient care. Only 8% of hospitals nationwide achieve Magnet recognition status. This year, Conway Regional opened a new 42,000 square foot medical office building, which is part of the capital investment project, along with new facility practice clinic in Greenbrier, renovation of Conway Regional Health and Fitness Center, and expansion of pharmacy and lab services. Additionally, for the fourth consecutive year, Conway Regional Health System has been named by Arkansas Business as the best place to work. So, and last but not least, we have Gina Radke. And Gina has been navigating the business world for over 20 years as successful business owner, entrepreneur, investor, and economic influencer. Owner and CEO of an aerospace manufacturing company, Galley Support Innovations, Gina uses her international business experience to serve as an international trade advisor to the US Congress. Gina is a speaker and coach who has mentored entrepreneurs from across the globe and is well known for her involvement in community service and empowering others with economic opportunities. She is also a published author. So please welcome our panel. So we're going to go ahead and start our questions. And so all the questions are for all three of you. But with this first one, we'll start with Secretary Smith. Briefly, please tell our audience about your organization, what you do, and how many employees you lead.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Yes, my name is Elizabeth Smith, and the organization that I lead is the Department of Inspector General. We were created last summer with Governor Hutchison's transformation. He took 42 state agencies and created 15 departments for the state. So within the Department of Inspector General, we have the Medicaid Inspector General's office, the Internal Audit Division, which was previously within the Department of Finance and Administration, and the Division of Fair Housing. It is the Fair Housing Commission that works within the Department of Inspector General. So we oversee fraud and abuse in the state system, within Medicaid, within the various state agencies and departments, and then also within housing throughout the state, not just housing owned by the state, but anyone who participates in housing, leasing, renting, and even in landlords, as well as in lending money related to housing. We have approximately 42 employees in the Department of Inspector General. We have, well, we'll talk later about our how we work, but a lot of us are remote now due to COVID. So thank you.
Thank you. Matt, can we move to you?
Absolutely. And yes, great pleasure to be with you guys and look forward to the discussion. Conway Regional Health System is a 2-hospital system based primarily here in Conway, 150-bed hospital here. We also have a rehab hospital that is literally across the street, across Robbins. And about a year ago, a little over a year ago, we took over management of a critical access hospital in Dardanelle, which is, as you probably know, just outside of Russellville. It was a extremely, and I can't emphasize strongly enough, extremely financially distressed hospital. We took over that location June 1st of 2019. So those of you who may have a little memory of what was going on in June 1st of 2019, it was the height of the flood. And the levee broke near Dardanelle, and so we had that fun thing to deal with in the midst of trying to get in there and help out that community. We employ somewhere around 90 providers. Those are physicians and mid-level nurse practitioner, PA type providers. And in addition to about 2,000 employees in total between rehab, Dardanelle, and here at Conway Regional Health System. So that's
Right.
us in a nutshell.
Thank you. Gina?
Hi, thank you for having me. Sorry, I had to unmute myself. So, like has been said before, my name is Gina Radke, and I own an aerospace manufacturing company, Galley Support Innovations. We design and manufacture the interior hardware for aircraft, as well as another manufacturing company that does different machine jobs for the aerospace industry, and also I own a real estate company. So across the three companies that I own, prior to COVID, we had 60 plus employees. Since we've been in COVID, we are down to about 37 across all three companies. We have not laid anyone off, but as people have left, we have not replaced them. So that is where we are with the people that we have. And of course, I'm sure we'll talk about it later. It's been an interesting ride in the aerospace business right now, because essentially, as I was telling Jamie before, if they don't fly, they don't buy. So it's we're weathering the storm, and we'll continue to do so, though.
Thank you. The next question, and we'll start with you, Gina. So obviously the COVID-19, it's difficult across all the industry, government, healthcare, and airspace. How does your organization cope with the current situation? And have your organization experienced any supply chain disruptions? And how did you adjust?
Well, one of the ways that we've been coping is, like I mentioned, as people have left, we have not replaced them, and that has allowed us to have not to have laid off any people. Right now, I mean, if I'm just being completely transparent, as of August, our sales were down about 55%, and in December, they're down 90%. So it has been an extreme crunch for us. Luckily, we have been financially stable and basically just wise in how we spend our money, and so we have been able to maintain. We've participated in the shared work program with the Arkansas Department of Workforce Services. That's a program that I wish I'd heard about before August, but it's actually a program that you can go on and your people will get unemployment, and you can reduce their hours between 10 and 40%. So some of our groups, our actual production group right now has been reduced by 40%, but they are receiving unemployment as well as keeping all of their benefits. And so we found great use from that program. We have cut our hours down, obviously, and we no longer work on Fridays. When it first started happening, it was kind of interesting. We had a 3-phase plan, and we went from phase 1 to phase 3 within a 3-day period. It was as soon as they said that schools were going to be closing, we had to figure out how to help, our families that had school-age children, and then it just shifted and shifted and shifted. And so we actually did a staggered shift. And so we've always had 2 shifts, but we kind of staggered them even more. There was an hour in between one shift and the other shift where we would open all the doors and we would try to air out the facility as much as possible. We rearranged our assemblers' desks so they were 6 feet apart. And of course, we let the ones who could work from home. However, about a couple weeks into this, we realized that we were a essential manufacturer because we manufacture for the transportation industry. So we didn't get to, I don't want to say take a break, because I know nobody likes to take a break and be laid off, but our people stayed working the entire time is what I'm trying to say. And we've made some adjustments. We've made some changes. We have always been about our people and about gathering together and coming together. And we would do once a month potlucks. And we do at Thanksgiving every year, we invite the entire families in and shut down for the day. And the kids can see where their parents work. And we do a huge potluck. And so obviously those things have changed as we've been working through COVID, and trying to adjust to how we keep our people motivated, because they're so used to that environment, because we strongly believe that since our people spend more waking hours with us than they do their own families, this should be a good environment for them to be in during that time. So we've been adjusting, and kind of trying to figure out how to flow through this. I'll be honest, nobody expected it to last this long. We really thought when it first started, I kept saying, well, give us 3 months and we'll know how it's going to affect us in 3 to 6 months. And, right in that mid-March between, month 3 and 6 is when we saw how it was going to affect us. And so we've been making every adjustment we can, essentially to keep our people employed. And we have actually not really had any disturbances in our supply chain. And I think that is strictly because we purchase from all Arkansas-based companies. And so we have fared that very well. When it first started, within a month, we were hearing from our customers that they were having supply chain issues. And so we were very glad that we were not one of those issues. And because of that, I think it's going to put us in a better place once we come out of this. But it's unfortunate that there were some smaller companies that also provided to our larger customers that went out of business. And so now those customers are coming to us asking if we can manufacture those items. So in the end, when it picks back up, I think we'll be better than we were before. But right now, it's a tough area to be in. They're not expecting aviation to rebound until 2023. So.
But that's great that you kept financially stable, that you were able, plus using Arkansas companies, that gives you a lot of insurance. Thank you, Gina. Secretary Smith, can we move to you?
Thank you. Sorry, I was on mute. But yes, so when we talk about supply chain, I guess you could consider the supply chain for our office to be the investigations and audits that we perform. And our investigations and audits, really, the only change that we have made to them is related to the in-person activities. We have historically, we would perform in-person audits at medical providers, Medicaid provider offices. We would go in person to various state agencies with internal audit, and the fair housing investigators will go around the state and meet with various rental agencies, companies that are landlords and businesses, and to see the locations where the complaints are coming from. So for the most part, we have not been performing the activities in person. We have received records electronically. In fact, we had to get a new medical records portal so that we could receive that medical records electronically rather than just receiving them via fax or a secure email. With the internal audit office, they have returned to state agencies that are open and are going some in person when they need to access certain documents or certain items, or if they can't access the records remotely, they're going in person and obviously following all the precautions, wearing masks and everything. And with fair housing, we have had one investigator go out last week, and so we're starting to do that on an as-needed basis. Luckily, with Medicaid, the Medicaid Inspector General's office, we made a determination that if we needed to go in person, we would for potentially a criminal case. But so far, we've been able to conduct our business remotely. So that's really been the main change for our investigations. Our workflow in the office has changed. We used to have lots of in-person meetings within the office among investigators or auditors, or just to work on the investigations and discuss those. Now all that's happening via Teams. It's a system similar to Zoom where we can utilize an electronic system. It also gives us the ability to store our records and post them in a cloud-based format so that other employees can see those. When we first started going virtual, some of our staff was not on the VPN system, so we needed to utilize that system. So we were able to do it really quickly. But we've continued our business. We've lost a couple of staff members to other opportunities, and we've actually gone through the hiring process. We've hired 2 staff members, and that's been real interesting. Luckily, one of the first hires that we made was right at the beginning, and she was a return. She had been an auditor with us and had left for a number of years to other employment, and then she came back to us. So that was pretty seamless. We checked her into the office, gave her a key, checked out our computer to her, and got her hooked up to the system, and she was good to go. We just hired an investigator last week, and so he's in the office right now. We have a few staff in, and many that are still remote. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt, I bet you have some interesting story to tell us about the supply chain disruptions, please.
Yeah, I think I could take up everybody's day with our story. Clearly being a hospital, it's been a unique place to be over the last several months, and I agree with both Elizabeth and Gina in many respects. We anticipated this to be far behind us by now, early on, and that was really the saving grace, right? As bad as it was back in April, we kind of thought, well, gee whiz, this will be over by the fall. We'll have football back, and everything will be great. And clearly, here we are in mid-October, still talking about it. I think we talk about our response, and not too unlike other hospitals, we created an incident command team. Given the unprecedented nature of COVID, we not just created that team to help us allocate resources and make decisions, but that's a team that really, as I like to say, talked it out. There were things that were just so unprecedented that there wasn't a CDC or an Arkansas Department of Health answer to a lot of our questions. So we had to go about really getting the right people, right minds at the table to really focus how we respond. And that's everything from who we let in the building, what procedures we do in-house versus in an ambulatory surgery center or type setting. I could go on, but really the first and foremost was creating that structure around our response to COVID, because again, given the unprecedented nature, we needed the right people to help us make those decisions. From a people standpoint, we did have many folks, and it sounds like, and Gina and Elizabeth, I think, have touched upon this, that opted to, either work from home, which we were able to, surprisingly, I didn't think this was possible, send over 100 people home. I'm very old school in this regard. I've always thought and held that in order to be productive, you gotta work at an office, come to an office at a location away from your home. But I have been really proven wrong. I've been really pleasantly surprised with our team and their productivity to be able to work from home and to work from Zoom like this, like I assume some of you are even today. And that's been something that has been, we still don't have quite 100 people, working from home, but several dozen that's now a part of their everyday situation. We also really were intentional about trying to pivot in a pandemic. By that I mean, in any crisis situation, there is opportunity, whether that's an opportunity to better tell your story, to maybe grow in a new market segment, or in a new way that you hadn't anticipated, et cetera. And so in many instances, and maybe we'll get to this a little bit later, we use this time to pivot into new things. Telemedicine just probably being the biggest example, is traditionally an area where most physicians have been reluctant to adopt, simply because they want to see you. That's how they train. That's what they're comfortable with, is seeing you in an office setting. But when people weren't coming to the clinic, telemedicine provided a great opportunity to extend care. And if you talk to a lot of primary care physicians in particular today, they'll tell you that in many senses, 2020 has been even busier than 2019 was, simply because they've got more telemedicine, more touch points with patients than they ever had before. Your question mentioned supply chain. That was obviously a very sensitive topic early on. I'm very thankful for our organization and the early steps they took, back really late 2019 and early, 2020 to acquire as much personal protective equipment as possible. We had a rather significant storage and emergency supply to lean on. And so daily we would look at, what our use rate was, how can we manage that use rate? Early on, obviously, if you're letting a lot of visitors and other patient families in the door. That's PPE that you got to supply to them, which then puts us in this, obviously difficult situation of trying to manage. Do we have enough supply for our staff before we start expanding to guests and visitors? And when do you do that? This was, kind of a continual, really, diligence on supplies and how much we had. And again, as somebody has also said, we didn't know how long this was going to last and how long the shortage was going to last. So managing that supply chain was huge for our success, and continues to be. I mean, obviously it's gotten much better, obviously today, but it's something we got to continually keep an eye on and be diligent about.
Thank you, Matt. I know why you want to work from office, because you homeschool 4 of your boys.
Oh, I used to say we homeschool, but my sainted wife really homeschools. I just kind of come in and be amazed at what they can get accomplished. But yeah, we're very blessed. And actually, one of them is they're at CBC taking a chemistry class and an English class. So I could say I've had one graduate from Hendrix. I've got one at UCA, and now I have one at CBC. So
great, diverse experiences. That's
right. That's right.
All right, so Matt, you touched something on, so 100 employees work remotely, and I think a lot of other panelists have to send their employees for remote work. Have you noticed any changes in the productivity, and how do you keep your remote employees motivated now?
It's a great question. So we have teams. I think just as Elizabeth mentioned, we have teams, and it's really forced us to adopt teams. It's kind of funny. Before COVID, we had planned to roll out Office 360 in Teams this year. Obviously, with COVID, we got busy on that a lot more quickly and adapted. I think it's been a productivity enhancer. Frankly, it has. I noticed I myself have worked from home a couple of days, and this is a good and bad thing, right? You don't get a break. I mean, I've noticed my meetings are much more efficient. I don't have that 5-10 minute meeting after the meeting like I would if I were in person. I don't have the travel time, so I could pretty much just go from one thing to the next. And forcing us onto a common platform, as I think one of the other panelists mentioned, has also been helpful, because rather than emailing, documents, or, hey, take a look at this Excel spreadsheet I just sent you. Well, it's not here yet. Oh, wait a minute, I changed this. On a common platform, obviously, like a Teams, you've got one document that you can share back and forth, and it just makes meetings and things flow much more efficiently. So I don't have a solid quantitative measure for you. I do feel like it's been a productivity enhancement, and it's forced us to adopt some change in technology that I don't know that we would have been as readily adoptive of absent a pandemic.
Okay. Thank you, Gina. What about your manufacturing or other 2 companies?
Well, it's been a lot harder, in manufacturing to send people home and work from home, because if they're not at the machine, they're not producing parts. But we have been able to send others home, and I will say we saw no loss in productivity. I think because of the importance we place on our environment, we want it to be a great place to work, that we were very leery about sending people home. But we've had no loss in productivity. Everyone's been doing great. As a matter of fact, we have one of our employees who is immune compromised, and she's been home since the 1st of March and is still doing well. And she's actually, sent messages and said, hey, I'm in Florida right now, but this is everything I'm doing. And so we have really been surprised at how well people have done from home. And I will be honest, you mentioned about him wanting to work from the office because he has homeschooling children at home. It's been interesting, some of the calls we sent. Our business manager was working home for a while, and she actually begged to come back. Her kids were both at home, and she had a young baby and I believe a 7-year-old. And all of a sudden, I hear the baby in the background, and then I hear the 7-year-old yelling, "Mom, Mom!" And the 7-year-old had fallen and was in school and had pulling the laptop on top of her, and so our team member was just like, "Can I please come back to work?" And so we told her as long as she felt safe, that she could come back. And so it really, I think some people work better at home and some people work better at the office. And I think everyone appreciates elementary school teachers much more now than ever before. But yeah, we've had really no loss of productivity with people working from home. I mean, from engineering to support staff. However, it's just not an option for our production staff.
Thank you. I think my husband, he works for Farm Bureau Federation. He can relate to this. I think he volunteered to go finally back to work in May because he got tired of homeschooling my two daughters, 12 and 10. I think he was first one to volunteer to come back.
Yeah.
Secretary Smith, do you want to add something?
Yes, I will briefly. As a state agency, I've been a state employee for over 20 years. And, it's always been that, I think, as Matt said, you're in the office, you're working, you're not in the office, you're not working. And I think that's kind of been the mentality of the state. And we also had the mentality too of the 8 to 5 workday or the 8 to 4:30 workday with the 30-minute lunch and the, specific breaks that could be taken. And so it was hard to move away from that. Even, before the pandemic, we had employees that wanted to adjust their schedules. And so we went through this process of having specific oversight for that and trying to make decisions on who could be early, who could come in at 7 and leave early, and who could come in later and leave later, and all of that. But when the pandemic hit, we had just switched over to Office 365, and we knew we needed to have people go remotely. A lot of people's children were sent home, and for the sake of just safety to reduce exposure. So we did that, and then as auditors and investigators, a lot of the work that we perform is independent, and there are productivity metrics that we keep track of. And so our productivity has been fine. In the beginning, we did think it was going to be short, like the rest of you mentioned, but once we saw this was going to be lasting for some time, we did allow the staff members to come and get an extra monitor. A lot of times our employees will use one monitor for the medical record and the other monitor for their audit report or their investigations. They might need more than one screen. So we've allowed them to come get screens and keyboards and check out other pieces of equipment that they might need at home. And so that's been another reason why most of them are still remote, because my concern, we have our office is one floor, very open, everybody's in cubicles. So if they're sitting there, they're sitting at their desk facing their computer, they might be 6 feet from the person next to them. But once somebody stands up and starts moving around and talking and breathing, then we're getting within 6 feet of shared space. And, my concern was if we bring everybody back in, and if we have a breakout in the floor, then we have to pack everything up and send everybody home again. And so right now, as long as our productivity is still up, they're working well. A lot of them have adjusted their schedules, which has been absolutely fine because of the children at home. And that was something that I have children myself that have been home off and on. And I wanted the supervisors to make sure for two things. One, from a supervisory perspective, to make sure that employees are actually working. We know that if they're having to log their kid on and help their kid with their Zoom in the morning and be in contact with the teacher at 8 o'clock, they're not working right then. So we need to adjust the employee's schedule so that they make that time up later on in the day. But also I wanted the supervisors to be mindful of that and allow the flexibility. Matt, I too have found that I don't take a break when I'm at home. I'm actually working from my home office right now. And I, and then even when I go into the office and there's fewer people there, it's more productive when you don't have people just wandering in. So anyway, it's been surprising. Thank you.
Thank you. So obviously you implemented a lot of changes due to COVID-19. Do you think some of those changes in your organizations will stay? Gina, do you want to start with you?
I don't think we're going to keep the changes. I'll be honest. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, we're going to keep our people at home. We will probably offer more flexibility and they can work from home or not work from home. and understanding that they are still productive when they're there. But again, because we're manufacturing, if you're not in front of that machine, it's not running. It makes it hard for us to make any of the continue with any of the changes, and as well as our staggered shift. Our people actually miss each other, and so I think that that is a wonderful thing. And our productivity has stayed about the same, but I think it's a wonderful thing that they actually miss each other and they want to be back together on one shift or two shifts. Now, the one thing that I think we probably will keep in mind or continue is the fact that, as we've all been talking about productivity, we have been absolutely amazed at how much we're getting done with a reduced workforce. And so it really has shown us that we could probably reduce our workforce, pay the people that we have more, and continue. I'm not now, again, our sales were down 55%. So I'm not going to say we can continue, going back to pre-COVID sales with the people we have now. But I think we've realized that we don't need as many people as we have had. And for me, that means that the people that we do have can get raises. And so I think that we will probably keep a more reduced workforce since we have increased our productivity so much with the few that we have.
That's great. Thank you. Matt?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest thing that we'll see changing our industry will be telemedicine, as I've mentioned before. Early on when COVID hit, people quit going to the doctor. We went from 0 telemedicine visits to about 45% of our primary care volume being via telemedicine, and even today that's hovering around 20%. So, which I think is a good thing. There's always a balance there between the kind of quality work that you can do over telemedicine. I've heard several providers say it's really opened their eyes to the lives of their patients because, like some of you, I can tell what's important in your life by what's hanging on your wall. You may see here a spinning Texas Aggie helmet. You know that I'm an Aggie. You can tell a lot about a person through their home environment. Some of that's been really good, and I continue to see that being present. One of the things that we did in responding to COVID was to really try to anticipate some of the anxieties that COVID was likely to bring. So, for example, we created a relaxation room. Since we weren't meeting in groups, we took one of our kind of smaller conference rooms and turned it into a relaxation room. We got massage chairs in there. We turned down the lighting, had some music, we had snacks in there, and staff, whenever they would have a break, could go in there and just sort of unwind and kind of get away from the anxiety and pressure of things. And as COVID has kind of become more every day for us now, that same sort of anxiety that was first there isn't there anymore. I think I would be I'd be threatened with my life if I tried to get rid of that relaxation room now. So that is something that's going to stay for at least a little while longer. One of the other things we did is we have a cafeteria here, so we started to make meals that staff could buy and take home. So all you had to do is take that meal. It was made something somewhat nutritious, put it in the oven, for 20, 30 minutes and feed your family for about $10. So that is something we continue to do. Staff really seem to appreciate that. Busy working mom and dads that don't have to worry about dinner, they can swing by the cafeteria and take it. So there's a lot of other things that we did, again, with a focus of really trying to ask ourselves, without incurring astronomically more expense, what are creative things that we can do to help make life easier for our staff. One of the other things that you had mentioned before was what we had done to make staff still feel connected, when particularly at the height of COVID and we're sending people out, we used video a lot. So we did video town halls. We did video messages to staff. Really tried other means rather than trying to get them all to come to a location. We tried other means to communicate, and staff, particularly younger staff, tend to really gravitate toward that. They'd almost prefer it. We have quarterly town halls here. They're mandatory. even though they're mandatory, we don't get 100% participation. So on our campus, I would get probably, anywhere between 800 and 900 people to attend our town halls previously. Now with COVID, it's close to 1,200 people. So we're touching more people. We're getting our message out there. So it's still making them feel like they're part of the culture, part of the organization, without having to, actually come in and risk close exposure. So those are just some of the things that I think have been effective, and it certainly won't change going forward. I can continue using those communication platforms indefinitely.
Thank you. Secretary Smith, would you like to add something to it?
Yes, I think the utilization of the virtual platforms teams, that will definitely continue as well. Prior to the pandemic, because of the transformation, we had moved the internal audit office as well as the fair housing division into our same floor, which is another reason why we're so crowded. And we had to reduce the amount of paper that each of those entities had. They had a lot of records, old records that had been maintained on paper. So we were turning a lot of that into electronic storage anyway. And then when the pandemic hit, just the reduction in paper with no more paper medical records, it's been great. So that's something we're looking forward to. We're reducing the square foot of paper space in our building so that we can utilize that for people. And then maybe we'll have some that will remain to be virtually working in the future too. So that would reduce the cost of rent to the state.
Thank you. I was wondering, what advice do you have for our Rotarians in District 6170 in leadership roles? How to, stay successful and keep leading during these challenging times? Matt, can we move to you?
Sure. I think you described me earlier as a servant leader, and I appreciate that. I don't always like putting the word servant in front of leader, because I think, frankly, as leaders, that should just be natural to who we are, natural to our roles, to really look outside ourselves and seeing how we can help other people. That should really be inherent and really a redundant phrase to say servant and leader. So I just would encourage us all, whether it's a pandemic or just normal life, whatever that is, to, as a leader, to first seek to serve, to have an eye toward serving, and then the rest of the progress and the outcomes will tend to follow thereafter. But look to serve first and foremost.
Thank you. Secretary Smith?
I think I would say flexibility is most important. When you're leading an organization and a big change comes up, you are going to have to throw out a lot of those, rules, a lot of the things that you have lived within, the bounds that we've lived within before. A lot of things have changed. And so to be able to accept that and to get to know, I think Gina and Matt both mentioned this, getting to know your staff and being working with them to see how they will best perform and what they need. That's one of the things that we've done. I think that's been a testament to being able to keep them productive. I've seen my middle management has risen up because with the inability to be in the office and constantly going to your supervisor or go to the ultimate supervisor, somebody else is going to have to answer a question. And with this electronic platform, they're working more as a team and they're working more together. And so I've really tried to foster those relationships. I've tried to encourage the middle management and encourage my staff to make decisions on their own and to give them the responsibility and the ability to do that. And I think that's made them even more productive. And I think it makes them feel more responsible for their work. And I think they're taking pride even more in their work while they're working remotely even.
Thank you. Gina, what is your advice?
Yeah. Well, first, I echo everything that Matt and Elizabeth said. I mean, great point of Matt about being a servant leader and how that really shouldn't, we shouldn't have to say servant leader because a leader should be serving. And, what Elizabeth said about her middle management stepping up. I've seen the same thing here with us. The piece of advice I would probably give to the leaders right now is have grace with yourself and with your staff, your team. Right now, we're in the middle of something that no one else has been through. I said that and they were like, what about the Spanish flu? And I said, well, we didn't have the internet during the Spanish flu. So, it wasn't such a pandemic, and it wasn't such a sense of panic is what I meant to say, a pandemic. Well, what, you know what I mean? But, cutting yourself a break. I mean, yesterday I had to make some really, really hard decisions. And when I got home at the end of the night, I told my husband, I said, I just need some time alone. And I had to kind of think about, what was going on in my life. And I thought, I've had to make decisions that really impact others. And then I'd spent half of a day making decisions that impact others, and then the other half of the day hearing from those that it impacted, and having grace with them and everything that they're going through, and having grace with myself to go, it just happens. I mean, life is just difficult right now, and I'm finding the good in it. And when I have to make tough decisions, I have to give myself a break and remember that everything has changed for everybody. We have all in some way, fashion, or form, lost our lifestyle to whether it's going out and playing team sports, or, being at church 3 times a week, or, even, we give a mental health benefit. We pay for 6 visits to any therapist that our staff would like, regardless whether it's family counseling, marriage counseling, personal counseling. We do that every year for them, and they don't even get to meet those people face to face anymore. So everyone's way of life has changed in some way. So it's important to take that into account, and not only to give your staff a break, but to cut yourself a break and remember that you're doing the best you can right now. And some days, we have bad days, and you may sit on the couch and watch trash TV and eat chocolate, and the next day you get up and you go right back at it.
Thank you. I would like to thank all of you for participating in this event, and thank you, Gina, Secretary Smith, Matt, for being so transparent and sharing with us your success stories and things that you had to overcome during these challenging times. Really appreciate your time, and we're going to share this recorded meeting with the Rotarians across our district, so a lot of people will benefit from your pieces of advice. Thank you. And we would like to close now with the 4-way test, and I would like to ask our past governor, Robert Thompson, to please lead us in that.
Okay, thank you, Katya. It's been a great meeting on today. Thank you.
Thank you.
The 4-way test, the Rotary 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Then we added one more. It was a 4-way, but now it's 5-way test. And so, is it fun?
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating at this panel. Thank you. Thank you, our panelists, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.